Okay. We hadn't seen this thing in quite a while, have we? It's been well over a year. The Dog Kennel Greenhouse. Yep, it's been sitting here exactly as it looks right now, with no roof. But that's about to change, because we have roofing material and we have screws and stuff, so we can go ahead and start putting a roof on this thing and get it enclosed and actually turn it into a greenhouse. One other thing I want to make note of was before actually starting the roof work, I also wanted to address our hydroponics stuff. I was able to restore our soda bottle setup by changing the fitting arrangement so they can actually be a little easier to remove, and even have a design where it kind of holds some of the water in there at all times, so the plants within will have a little bit of water to feed off of. Simple setup. I glued a length of 1/2-inch PVC in here, put a coupling on the inside. As you can see, it holds water in there. Now, if this glue is problematic later on, like the summer heat degrades it or something, I might trim this 1/2-inch pipe down, put another coupling on the outside to just kind of keep everything super tight. I won't do it yet, but right now as it stands, I could use this thing. I need to still put another fitting here because I came up short one reducer bushing, and we got our other bottle right here for it. The other thing I still need to do here is our mini double barrel hydroponics setup. Got to put end caps on. I got to trace out holes for these little cups and cut them out and put the cups in there just to kind of fit it all out. So that'll also be done. And then lastly, I have to actually put a submersible pump in there, in that drum that'll be actually feeding the plant water to all this stuff. And that won't really get done until I run power to this thing, which also won't be done until I get a roof on this thing. So, like I say, main thing, get the roof on first, and then we can go ahead and start wrapping up all this hydroponic crap, timers, pumps, even some grow lights. So, yeah, go ahead and get started slowly but surely, because some of this is going to involve me being on a ladder and doing some careful positioning to allow me to safely attach all this crap without falling and busting my face. So, as usual, stand by. Okay, we managed to get 6 panels mounted on the roof here. We obviously still have a little gap of about a couple feet right here, but we got them all attached using self-tapping screws and washers. We got them all up. Even had to take a moment to somehow climb on that fence post and on the rail right there to be able to reach up to get this last panel attached to this rail right here, or tube, but I got it done. So now at this rate, I'll take my remaining panels, measure out, and cut sections to cover this gap right here. I would imagine that one 8-foot panel should net me 3 pieces for each side, so I'll be using 2 more panels right there to cover that gap. Once that's done, then we'll start looking at how we're going to cover this here. I might end up having to add some extra tubing, I don't know, but we'll get to that once we get this covered up. So the work continues. Stand by. Alright, we have our short panels done. They were a little better than 2 feet. They were actually 30 inches long, so I still had enough in each panel to do one side. So we have them attached with the self-tapping screws. Another thing I had to do was where the 8-foot panels ended and the 2-foot panels began, I used self-tapping screws to attach the seams together. Hopefully these will hold. At first I thought about using rivets with the washers, but we'll see how this plays out. But just like with the 8-foot panels, self-tapping screws are holding the panels to the roof frame tubes. I will have to come back with some caulk or some type of sealer to close these seams up even better. Even along where the 8-foot panels are meeting, I'm going to have to close all that up so we can get better sealing all across the roof. But otherwise, we still have to figure out what we're going to do about our side panel walls here. So I'm going to sit and think about that a minute, and I will get back to you shortly. So, as usual, stand by. Okay, this is rather crude looking when you really look at it, but it's going to have to work. But I have to do a little tweaking. But my plan, took some straps, like conduit straps, and they're attached to the rails here and up there. And I took some tubing from one of the old portable garage piece batches and cut them to be able to make these support posts right here. That one on the end, like I said, I need to tweak that one. But obviously the idea here is going to be to take our panel, run it lengthwise, and the end of this 8-foot panel is going to terminate at that post right there, where then I'll cut another short piece from another panel to finish the rest of the gap to cover the whole 10-foot span. There will be a small opening at the top, and I'm still kind of up in the air as to whether I want to leave that open or not, because in the summertime that will serve as a form of ventilation, because it will get hot as shit up in here. But we'll figure that out after we get our main hardware attached. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll get back to you shortly. Alright, we have our wall done. Looks rather cheesy and just lopsided, but right now we're going for function, not aesthetics. Because of the nature of this entire structure, nothing's going to really be perfect. But the wall is up. I did have to cut a little panel right there to cover that 2-foot gap. And, I mean, it worked out. It wasn't perfect. But, again, trying to really measure this stuff and get it just right, yeah, it ain't going to happen. I mean, look at the doggone thing. But anyway, everything's held in place with sheet metal screws, self-tapping screws. As for that gap right there, I would like to leave it open as a vent, but of course that gap will also allow rain to come in if it does start blowing sideways some. So I might just go ahead and cover that up with a small piece of scrap plastic that I have laying around. No biggie. But I will also have to come back over this with some expanding foam and caulk or whatever in order to help close in all the gaps and everything. Again, function versus beauty here, so yeah. But the posts worked out as intended to hold this thing up, so now I could duplicate the same thing on the other side, get that side closed in, and try to get to the concluding part of our roof on this structure so we can move on to the other things, such as caulking and all that other garbage. So again, stand by. Let me get the rest of this junk done. I don't know how this weather's going to play out. Okay, an update on the seams on these wall panels for the roof section. I took a moment to take some expandable foam in the can and spray it around the seams here to close all the large gaps between the roof and the wall portion. Same thing on this side, minus that little section right there because I ran out of foam. as well as I took a minute to caulk all this garbage up here, all the seams where the panels meet one another. These right here are actually caulked from the outside, while these are caulked from the inside, because right here water would actually hit right in and come inside. Over here I could get away with caulking from the inside because the panels already overlap, so most of the water would run off. This caulking more or less kind of keeps moisture from just condensing on the inside because of runoff on the outside, but nonetheless it's sealed all the way around. Even the joint right here where the 2-foot section and the 8-foot section meet on both sides, caulked up. Another little thing we managed to address was our hydroponics setup. Had to make several modifications. There's another video on that as well. It's mainly focusing on the double barrel setup, but we do touch on our soda bottle setup as well. Modifications are made. The system is actually running with the pump in there, and water is going where it's supposed to go, so our hydroponics setup is ready for action. I even planted some plants in our bucket beds right here just to kind of get a head start. So that's all said and done. Now there's another little thing I wanted to do as far as our hydroponics setup, and that was create a little setup to refill the drum right there. And the idea that we came up with was this little shower drain thing. The whole idea will be, if I get this off, single-handed, and I can show you. This little drain setup, I'll be mounting it in the roof. I'll cut a hole, put this in the roof. It's got a little rubber bushing on there, but I will have to caulk around it because of the corrugated crap. And when that goes in there, this part will go on the inside to secure the whole thing. I'll also put this pipe on the end there, or like that, and then take some of that 2-inch pipe there to connect it. It's going to look kind of goofy because the pipe's actually going to come at a slight angle, but the whole point is the pipe will go into the drum, so whenever it rains heavily, that water runoff on the roof will collect around that drain and go into the drain and eventually fill up the drum based on however much rain we actually get at any given time. It's just an extra supplement to help fill the drum up, in addition to the float valve setup that I want to do. That'll be piggybacking off of our irrigation setup. So in the meantime, I got to get up there and cut a hole, secure this thing, caulk it, all that good stuff, and do our little setup for the drain, gutter, fill, drum thingy, whatever you want to call it. Maybe I'll figure out a name for it. But as usual, stand by. Alright, took a knife, cut a little hole in the roof right over the drum, screwed down our little drain setup. So now I got to put the retaining cap on there, fit the pipes on there, caulk all this garbage up. Alright, we've got our drain assembly installed. You can see right there, sort of, kind of, the cap, retaining cap is in place. Got it all caulked up real good. So even though we would want water to leak in, we don't want it to leak in an uncontrollable manner. So this is all caulked in, but let's go inside real quick. Right now, we could see our retaining cap holding on right there. The other little fittings in place along with our 45 elbow. Of course, because of the pitch of the roof and the 45 elbow, our pipe coming down and going into the drum right here, it's going to be at an angle, but whatever. I also have a conduit pipe strap used to hold the pipe in the drum stationary so it doesn't flop around and put undue stress on our caulk joints up there, much less on the plastic roof itself. Couldn't get the last screw in there because, well, it's plastic, and trying to drive a screw through plastic under the tension of the strap, yeah, that wasn't happening. But either way, rain water runoff hits the shower drain, some of it goes in there and fills up our drum. Simple thing. So we'll move on to something else. Stand by. Alright, a couple new updates. We've got our water supply more or less done and the beginning of our power supply. The water supply is nothing more than a tap in the irrigation line here to dump water into the drum. I don't have a float valve at the moment, so I used an old valve pipe assembly that I had done. This is from my scrap pile, and it empties into the drum. If I turn the the valve a quarter of the way open, it'll probably supply about the same volume of water that the float valve would supply without shutting it off, of course, until I get a float valve, and then we could remedy that, and this will just be a redundant setup to shut the water off. Our electric setup is a 2x4 that's attached to the tube via a couple of wood screws, securing it to holes drilled in the tube. Self-tapping screws hold the outlet box in place. Wood screws are on the board for the timer to slot down on top of. We'll have a regular 2 outlet setup on it. Well, just a regular 2 outlets on there. Timer will plug into one of them. Our pump is plugged into the timer. The other outlet will supply grow lights for everything around here. Next thing is get an extension cord so we can get some power to this place. Stand by. Okay, we have our extension cord in place, hardwired into our outlet box right here. We also have our timer plugged up to the outlet box with the pump also plugged up to the timer. And I zip tied the cable all the way along the top of our kennel frame here, and all the way around to that corner right there where it passes under the plastic, runs down, and then runs along our fence all the way to the west end of the garden over there. Take a quick walk over there. The cable, the extension cord, continues to run along this chicken wire fence line over to where our outlet / junction box is located. I have a lot of excess cable here. 100 foot was more than enough, but we have our outlet box right here, and this green cord right here is actually the power coming from our storage trailer. Now this is all really a temporary type setup, but that extension cord plugs up to this cable right here, which is hardwired into our outlet box, and our extension cord is just plugged in like a regular extension cord. So as temporary as it looks, we've ran this setup like this before without any problem. So anybody who thinks that, oh my God, it's an open outlet in the rain, there hasn't been a problem. It works. As you would have noticed, we have water running. Makes you want to go to the bathroom, does it? Anyway, the regular sprinkler systems are running off of the irrigation lines that are feeding the greenhouse. All this plumbing right here, that line right there is working all our sprinkler crap. We already have some plants in place here and here. Even our hydroponic gardens also have some plants. Well, our double barrel setup is totally full, and a few of our soda bottles are full as well, along with these bucket beds. But the thing that we'll make note of is, while the sprinkler system is running, our hydroponics drum is getting refilled. So even though I expect to only have the irrigation system run maybe 5 to 10 minutes at any given time, that little bit of water emptying into there will be enough to help fill this drum up. This drum was actually about half full, and it's been running for about, I would say, 15 minutes, give or take, at that slow flow right there. So we might have a good little balance there. We also have, as an added bonus, we have a hanging basket salvaged from a strawberry plant, currently growing catnip. We also have one of these old school upside down planters holding a tomato plant. I'll see how long this thing lasts before it falls apart. But we have just a couple more things to add in here, namely grow lights. Once we hang our grow lights up around here, the greenhouse will technically be completed, and well, it's already operational. I need to get more perlite for our soda bottle planters here and more plants, and then we'll be completely online at 100% capacity. So again, stand by for the grow lights. Alright, we got our first set of grow lights here. These are some fancy UV lights. I plugged one up and tried it out, and it's a nice bright purple light. So these should be more than sufficient to help these plants grow. So they come with a little hanging kit and all that garbage, so be able to hang that crap up over here. Or actually, one's going to go right here, and then another one's going to go right here. And I probably need one more for right there. But this is a start. So going to go ahead and get this stuff hung up. And we got a few more to hang. Stand by. Alright, got our first pair of grow lights hung. Took some wire that I had with the little clamps, strung it between a couple holes there to provide a point to anchor the thing where it's centered over that set of plants. I just did a crude loop so I could put a point that's a little bit lower for this light here in order to cover these plants. I still need to put another one over here, which I'm going to have to do the same thing as far as the wiring to hold it, as well as right here too for all the other ones. But like this light here, I had to zip tie the cord over there. I got everything set up here on a power strip hooked up to a timer that is currently going to turn the thing on at night. Well, it's going to be a 12-hour interval, 6 to 6, which would be sufficient enough for the winter time. So that'll be set up for that. As far as the other lights are concerned, I'll probably have to use some extension cord to reach around the perimeter of the shed to get to that power strip. So, like I say, we've still got a few more lights to hang. So go ahead and get that all done. Alright, we got all our grow lights in place. Got one right here covering this little zone right here. Got another one right here that'll help cover this area with a little overshooting from that side. Got the other one right here to cover most of this area. And we got one right here. Now, one might say, hey, you need one in that corner and that corner, yada yada. I mean, we're in an area that's going to get some light, so it's not really serious to have the whole area just doused in artificial UV light. It's been a minute since our last take on this greenhouse, and as you can see, a lot of the plants are growing rather wild, even in the hydroponics, even though the temperature in this greenhouse is probably 120 degrees. But it's an experiment to see just how well some of this stuff is actually going to hold up, and apparently some of it's holding up pretty good, even in the heat. Even with this intense sun, while some, like these okra plants, are, well, they're growing, but they're also suffering. Same thing with our pepper plants here. At night, that little plant right there will perk up, but during the day, as you can see, but obviously, I'm not expecting a whole lot out of these plants in here, even though these cucumbers might actually do something good, because look at them, they're all over the place. But I'm waiting for the winter time. But anyway, our greenhouse is equipped with artificial light, as well as all the different hydroponic and raised beds, as you could hear it running currently. I do have some future plans for making some upgrades to even the greenhouse due to the idea of using the cracky hydroponics idea. So a lot of this stuff is probably going to get reconstructed, but that'll be a whole nother video in the future. But as far as our greenhouse as a whole, it is complete, it is operational, and it's hot as hell in here, as it's supposed to be. So till the next time, as usual, like, subscribe, notifications, TikTok, all that good stuff. and I will give you a quick glimpse of what it looks like at night. But until then, I will catch you later. The colors. The colors. There's that saggy pepper perked up now that the temperatures went down. Along with all the other plants, even these okra plants are a little more perkier. I think we're ready for winter time. I'm out.